everybody, Peter here, and you've come to the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Welcome! Today we're going to look at more Kill Team. It's a new set, it's called Nightmare. And it's two new teams who are all about the nightmare. They're all about the darkness, the horror, the violence. Yes, it's Games Workshop, and nothing's happy in the Games Workshop world. It's all about killing. And these ones really typify that kind of grim, dark horror. We have got the Night Lords. These are a Chaos Space Marine kill team. And then we've got the Mandrakes. And the Mandrakes are like horrific kind of other dimensional killing things that the Drukhari, the Dark Elf, sometimes use, but really have their own inscrutable ideas of what to do. So there you go. It comes with some new terrain as well. Let's talk all about it. Before I get started, Games Workshop sent this to me for free. I don't charge for my videos and my opinions are always my own, but I want to show it off to you, so let's check it out. Okay, firstly, what do you get in the box? Well, you get an impressive piece of terrain. It's a big solid piece. The side pieces of this thing are actually glued on, so you get the top piece and then you glue on these bits as well. But it's a nice chunky piece, isn't it? It's really good. And this goes well, of course, with the beta decimer terrain that came in the original terrain set for this campaign season of Kill Team. And what's happening in this season, of course, we're no longer in the Gallo Dark, which was the big space hulk up in space that the last season was set in. The Gallo Dark fell apart and smashed onto the world of Beta Decimer, and now we're playing on gantries above a raging sea. Now, the problem is, if you didn't happen to pick up that terrain set, which gave you those gantries, you're going to have problems playing the particular scenarios in this set, because they all use that terrain, plus this new piece, of course. And this is the new way the Kill Team is sold, these individual sets which add terrain to the initial terrain set. Unfortunately, I didn't get a copy of the original terrain set, so I'm a little bit frustrated. I want to get back and buy it, but in New Zealand, it's very hard to get things once they're sold out. In fact, it's very hard to get a lot of Games Workshop stuff after it's sold out. So there is a problem with this whole system, is that the subsequent sets use that initial terrain set. If you're going to buy the first set of miniatures and that initial terrain set, it's going to add up to being more pricey than getting the old big box versions. Then again, it is more flexible, because then in future you could just get the team. You don't get copies of the original terrain. I don't know what to do. It's really quite a difficult system, and either way has its advantages and disadvantages. Of course, you can still play with these teams with any type of terrain. The only disadvantage is that you're not going to be able to use the particular scenarios in this set unless you mock up similar terrain to the original stuff. So you kind of have to buy the original terrain set. Phew. Oh well, that's how it works these days, and it probably works the same with Warcry as well. Let's have a look in the set. Of course, we get these two warbands. I'll show you those in a moment. Warbands, not warbands, kill teams. They're called warbands in Warcry. So, of course, you get your rules for putting them all together, or your instructions, I should say, in there. Now, the way they've put everything else together is in a nice little box, as you can see. So you can open up this little box. I don't know if you'd want to keep it or not, but when you open it up, you get the book. There it is, the Nightmare book with all the rules. And you get all your data cards, and you get your other cards as well. These cards. So it all stays together in that nice, neat little box. You also, in the bottom, get your transfer sheet for these forces. Well, this would mainly be for various Chaos Space Marines and, of course, the Night Lords. So, there you go. That's what you get in the box. Of course, you get your very nice unit cards with all the information and special abilities of these two kill teams. They're all there. That's great. You get a nice sheet of nice, thick counters. Two sheets, I should say, for both of these forces. I mean, here they are, really nice, thick counters, and yet when we open Legions Imperialis, we got thin little cardboard things. Who makes these decisions? You know, they should all be this good quality, nice and thick. Don't know why we got thin ones. I'm still smarting about that, and it was ages ago. Then we've got a bunch of cards, and as you know, these have all the various, we've got strategic ploys here, tactical ploys, equipment cards. There's a little guide to the tokens, which is handy. I really like that. It gives you an idea of what the icons mean. faction tac ops. So everything you need for each one of the kill teams in this set. Nice big tarot-sized cards. And here's the meat of the pudding, which is the Nightmare rulebook. And it follows the same format, of course. So what we have is some background material about the whole Gallodark smashing into Beta Decima. And then we find out about the Night Lords, who are a really, truly horrible bunch of guys. They're so incredibly violent. I love how they say things like, well, you know how Chaos Space Marines are psychotic and violent? Well, these guys are even more psychotic and violent than they are. Or amongst the Chaos Space Marines who are psychotic and violent, the Night Lords are considered particularly psychotic and violent. This brings me back to some of the early influences of Warhammer 40,000. I was thinking about this when I was reading this. A lot of it was influenced by 2000 AD, the old British sci-fi comic. And particularly there was a strip in there called Nemesis the Warlock, which a lot of ideas from Warhammer 40,000 came from that. And 2000 AD strips in general. But the thing about that, even though it was really grim, dark and violent and horrible, it also had a lot of humour, and there was this light and dark all the time. So you'd have violence, horror, grim, dark, but then you'd have humour to offset it. And this is what the early days of Games Workshop, when I first discovered it, it was very much about this kind of thing. There was humour as well. In the modern Games Workshop, it really worries, no, it doesn't worry me, I don't care, but it is a shame that the humour has kind of been lost for the grimdark. Everything is so grim and violent and horrible, it all becomes a bit one note. And this is why you have to say things like, the Chaos Space Marines are terrible, but these guys are more terrible. And eventually, if there's no light and shade, it's very difficult to get across the idea that they're really terrible, because everything's terrible. Anyway, that's just a personal little rant about me, you know, my opinion. Anyway, the Nemesis Claws is the name of this particular kill team that are coming from the Night Lords. They like dressing up in people's skins and, you know, torturing people and, the usual stuff. And then you've got the Mandrakes, and the Mandrakes are kind of interesting because they're different. They're sometimes used by the Drukhari, or also known as the Dark Elves, out on particular missions and things, but they have their own inscrutable ways. They slip in and out of this other dimension that they live in, and they form pacts with people and do horrible things. They're kind of made of shadow, and they scuttle around. They can scuttle on roofs and go up vertical walls. And, you know, you look at them and sometimes they've got a blank face and then suddenly they've got a screaming face. They're kind of really creepy, and they've got black skin with runes glowing on them and yeah, horrible. And the big thing about them is that they use shadow a lot. So when we get onto the rules, well, first let's have a look at some of these. This is, of course, the Night Lords, the Nemesis Claw kill team, and then further on is the Mandrakes. There they are. And, you know, they all look a bit similar, but they're actually really easy to put together because they all follow the same way of putting it all together. But, you know, they're nice and dynamic and have a lot of movement and flowing robes and that kind of thing. Oh, I had to laugh when I was reading this bit about the Night Lords. You know how it talks about, you know, what they're wearing. It's like a fashion thing, isn't it? They say, its warriors, this is the Night Lords Traitor Legion, its warriors wear armour of midnight blue, often adorned with shocking lightning flash patterns, offset by the arterial crimson of eviscerated organs and ripped out hearts. Oh dear, it sounds like a fashion show. Anyway, so the Mandrakes slip in and out of shadow, and they're horrible things, and you never know what they're going to do. So when we get onto the rules, as I was originally saying, when you get to the Mandrakes, it's all about slipping in and out of shadow. And one of the figures as well can form shadow portals, so they can slip into the shadow portal and appear over the other side of the board. So there are rules for what consists of shadow on a board. It's usually very close to terrain or under some overhanging thing. And if that's an area of shadow, they can slip around from areas of shadow to other areas of shadow. So that's a really nice thematic thing. I really like that. The Night Lords don't seem to be quite as thematic, though they also like to operate in darkness. So they have a special rule for operating in darkness, which is in Midnight Clad. So when determining if a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is in an enemy operative's line of sight, that friendly operative is obscured if all the following are true. It has a conceal order, it's within black triangle of heavy or light terrain, and any part of its base is underneath the vantage point. It's more than red pentagon from enemy operatives is visible too. So there's similarities between these two forces. They're both taking advantage of darkness, and the mandrakes especially is slipping through shadow. So it'd be interesting to see how they go up against each other and who comes out on top when it comes to really using the darkness the best way. Of course, you've got the rules for the Beta Decima terrain and the rules for the new Genitorium hub, which is this new piece of terrain. Another thing I like are these narrative twists. So this is a bunch of particular little twists that you can add to a game to make it a bit more narratively interesting. Currents, whirlpools, hypnotic waters, ocean predator, battering waves, miasmal veil. It goes on and on. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can add to make things more thematic. And then at the end, as I said, you've got all of these missions. And of course, you'll be needing, as I said, the terrain from the original set to use those. So all in all, a nice set. I really like this thing. It's nice and big and chunky, as you can see. You can use this in lots of games. Now, I should point out, of course, I've only undercoated these. I haven't painted them fully yet. I undercoated this using lead belcher because it's a nice basis for all the metallic areas of this model. But I will highlight some of these, and I'll give it an all-over dry brush of a lighter silver, and then lots of washes and things to make it look grimy and used. And probably a different bronzy colour for this walkway, just pretty much following the photographs that are in the game. Nice piece, that. Let's have a look at the models. Now, as I said, I've just primed these. I use white for most of my priming duties, depending on how I'm going to paint them, but it's usually white because I'll be using contrast paints to speed things up. This one is a Mandrake Night Fiend. He's got these special abilities, Harrowing Whispers and Ooblex. Basically, you can stop other characters activating when they have their activation turn. This one is the Mandrake Abyssal. He's got a Bale Surge, which is a blast and burn ability, and he uses Balefire. You can also wreathe in Balefire, so it's all about the Balefire for this dude. This one is the Mandrake Chooser of the Flesh. He's got a Soul Harvest ability. Yeah. So each time an enemy operative is incapacitated, he's got a Part Collector ability. Oh dear. Add one of your Soul Harvest tokens to your pool, so you get Soul Harvest tokens, and you can add that to your APL until the end of the battle, or you can regain lost wounds. So, harvesting souls. This is the Mandrake Dirgemaw. He's got a horrifying scream and a glimmer steel blade. With his haunting focus ability, he can take over other operatives or enemy operatives and, use them. Horrible. This is the Shade Weaver. He's got some special abilities for creating shadow portals and using shadow. As you can see, he's just creating a whole wave of shadow there. And then finally, we've got a bunch of your bog standard warriors, though I really wouldn't call them bog standard in this case because, well, they're mandrakes and they're horrible. But as you can see, really, nice figures. They've got a lot of character. The amazing detail that Games Workshop is renowned for. And they've got a nice creepy feel, don't they? Next up, we've got the Night Lords. Now, you may be wondering why I've undercoated in lead belcher, and that is because these are largely metallic figures, but they also use dark blue, so I'm planning to keep the metallics and then use a dark blue contrast paint over the metallics for their armour, and hopefully that will save me a lot of time doing a lot of fiddly metallic work. This is the Night Lord Ventrilocar. He's an icon bearer. So he's very good at controlling objectives. And he's also got disconcerting mimicry, which is a psychic action. Yeah. This one obviously is a heavy gunner. He's carrying a missile launcher. Absolutely classic. And I really like these backpacks. This really takes me back to the earliest Chaos Space Marine figures. Had these backpacks with the wide bits on either side. These are really classic looking Chaos Space Marines to me. We've got a Screecher. He's obviously the, your classic Wolverine close combat dude who's running into it and charging into the combat. This guy's a Fearmonger. He's got a Terrachem vial. which, yeah, doesn't sound good. Horrible chemicals. Yeah, and a tainted blade. Oh, tainted blade. A gunner. This one, of course, is armed with a plasma gun. These are a bit more straightforward, these guys. Not heavy on the special abilities at all. This guy's a skin thief. Yes, he's wearing skins, as you do when you're a psychopathic killer. He's got Flay Them Alive, which basically stops another operative from performing mission actions or the pickup action, or controlling objective markers. I mean, certainly if you're being flayed, it would be difficult to concentrate on anything else, wouldn't it? This one's the Night Lord Visionary. Oof, he's the leader of the bunch. No special abilities, but he's got a Nostraman chain blade, power fist and power weapon, and a plasma pistol and a bolt pistol. Wow. And finally some warriors. And they're all very nice and spiky, aren't they? Great figures in the classic Chaos Space Marine vein. Ah, did you get what I said then? Vein? Pun? Yep. Well, there you have it, my friends. Nightmare. Two really nice kill teams here, all about death and darkness. And it's making me want to go back and get that original terrain so I can play some of these particular scenarios. But if I don't end up doing that, I can still play any game of Kill Team. In fact, I can put these guys in the Gallow Dark, where they'll be very good in the shadow between corridors, you know, like sort of peeking around corridors, going from shadow to shadow, all that kind of thing. Be really suited to that terrain, I think. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at Nightmare. Thank you very much for watching. Check out orderofgamers.com. That's where all my rules, summaries and references are. They're really, really handy. And also you can get access easily. It's all searchable to more than 500 videos and a whole lot of other stuff. Thanks very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe as well. Bye for now.